For so long now, the Avengers were the foundation of the MCU, but after Endgame, their ranks are, well, mostly non-existent. But never fear, because in the comic books, the organization goes through some personnel changes all the time. Seriously, all that Avengers HR paperwork must really be a nightmare. As we move into Phase 4 and beyond, will our remaining heroes try to return the Avengers to their former glory? Or will they team up in all new and exciting ways? It's like the old expression, there's more than one way to assemble a team of superheroes, or something like that. Let's take a look at some of the ways the Avengers could assemble in the future. Just a quick post-Endgame recap. Let's take a look at where all our original Avengers are, and it's pretty grim to be honest. Grab your tissues. Tony Stark and Natasha Romanoff both sacrificed themselves to undo the decimation, although one of them got a lot more fanfare than the other. Steve Rogers is an old man since he went back in time to live out his life with Peggy Carter, and handed over his shield to Sam Wilson. Clint Barton has his own show on Disney+, which sees him take on the role of mentoring his protege, Kate Bishop, who we'll talk more about later. Vision is gone twice over, at least until the WandaVision show premieres, and Thor just abruptly pulled a Poochie and took off for outer space. The Scarlet Witch is still around, and we expect to see her in both WandaVision and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Pretty much, Bruce Banner is the last remaining vestige of the original team, and he's not quite the same person he once was either. Plus, he sustained a nasty injury after using the Infinity Stones during Endgame, and it remains to be seen how quickly he will heal, if at all. Phase 4 is going to be introducing tons of new characters, including the Eternals and Shang-Chi. But for now, Phase 5 is more of a mystery. It's possible the 5th phase of Marvel movies will concentrate on teaming up the heroes we'll be getting to know through the upcoming shows and movies. In the comic books, there are many offshoots of the Avengers team. Heck, the Avengers we saw assemble in the MCU aren't even the original Avengers from the comic books. The founding team was really Tony Stark, Thor, Hank Pym, Janet Van Dyne, and Bruce Banner. Let's start out with the team we think is the most likely to make their MCU debut sooner rather than later, the Young Avengers. Yes, superheroes are beloved by people of all ages, or at least that's what we tell ourselves. But kids are a big part of the target audience, so we wouldn't be surprised to see Marvel embracing that demographic by featuring younger heroes. After all of the reasons Peter Parker is such a beloved hero is because we like to see him dealing with typical teenage problems in addition to grappling with his superhuman responsibilities. Okay, that made us sound kinda mean, but hey, you get it. In the comics, Nathaniel Richards, aka Iron Lad, manages to upload an AI of Vision into his suit and activate the Avengers Failsafe program. The program was meant to help recruit the next generation of heroes if this generation gets wiped out. And hey, what do you know, that's pretty much the situation the MCU is in right now. And that program also seems just like the type of irresponsible thing Tony would leave behind without clear instructions, just like he left Peter those dangerous Edith glasses in Far From Home. Many members of the Young Avengers are characters we haven't met yet in the MCU. There's Eli Bradley, the Patriot, who starts out basically juicing superpowers via mutant growth hormones until he receives a transfusion, granting him the powers the super soldier serum provides. Then there's Billy Kaplan, the Wiccan, who has electrokinetic powers, and Teddy Altman, also known as Hulkling. Despite his name, he isn't related to the Incredible Hulk. He's the son of Captain Marvel, the original male Mar-Vell, not the Brie Larson superhero, and the Skrull Princess Anel. If you thought being a teenage superhero on Earth was tough, just imagine doing it as a half-Kree, half-Skrull. Eventually, Iron Lad, Patriot, Wiccan, and Hulkling were joined by Cassie Lang and Kate Bishop. Cassie Lang is the daughter of Scott Lang, who was eager to follow in her father's footsteps and become a hero. She already exists in the MCU, and after being left behind during the blip, she's that much closer to becoming the hero stature. Then there's Kate Bishop, who becomes Hawkeye and eventually trains under Clint Barton himself. Don't worry, he's cool with her using the name since he was deceased for a while. It's okay, he got better. Now we know things rarely shake out on the big screen the same way they do in the comics, so we fully expect some substitutions to this lineup. Cassie and Kate seem like sure things, but there are also some interesting prospects out there. You might remember little Harley Keener from Iron Man 3, but we don't blame you if you didn't recognize him from Tony's funeral in Endgame. Harley was inspired by Tony, who hooked him up with some sweet technology. So it's possible he could go on to become the new Iron Lad, or some other kind of metal-themed tech-savvy hero. We also know we're getting a show about Miss Marvel, aka Kamala Khan, who is not only a teenage superhero, but she's a huge superhero nerd herself. Not that we can relate to that or anything. Come on, Kamala ships Spider-Marvel, and that's just unrealistic. Everyone knows Captain Marvel and Valkyrie are meant to be. Iron Lad, Stature, Hawkeye, and Miss Marvel would definitely be a solid superhero lineup for the Young Avengers. And let's not forget that Peter Parker is still in high school himself. Since Far From Home really drove home the point that he has to fill in Tony Stark's shoes, at least metaphorically, it's possible he could be involved with founding the Young Avengers. There are many Avengers teams out there, but not all of them are heroes. Just look at the Dark Avengers, founded by none other than notorious Spider-Man bad guy Norman Osborn. We haven't seen him in the MCU just yet, but many fans think it's only a matter of time before he moves in to fill the void of power left by Tony Stark. And since Sony and Disney are now getting along and sharing Spider-Man and associated characters, this actually seems possible and not just wishful thinking. There have been rumors about Marvel trying to cast the part for quite some time, and fans wonder if there was a hint about his company Oscorp in the movie Ant-Man and the Wasp. After all, who was the mysterious benefactor behind Sonny Birch trying to purchase tech from Hank Pym? Spider-Man Far From Home finally gave us J. Jonah Jameson after all this time. Could Norman Osborn be next? Yes, please. Basically, the Dark Avengers are a group of villains masquerading as heroes. These include Bullseye, Moonstone, and Venom. Bullseye took on the role of Hawkeye, Moonstone was Miss Marvel, and Venom was, of course, Spider-Man. There were also Ares and Sentry, who were the leftovers from the Mighty Avengers and just decided to stick with the not at all suspicious change in leadership. There was also Daken disguised as Wolverine, Norvar as Captain Marvel, and Norm himself as the Iron Patriot. Unsurprisingly, the Dark Avengers clash with many legitimate heroes, including the Young Avengers. Their organization is sinister, convoluted, and just the kind of strange we like. There have been rumors of a Dark Avengers project for quite some time, and it could even incorporate some existing characters like the Abomination or the Vulture. It's also possible Yelena Belov could be involved after she's introduced in the Black Widow movie. And while we love superhero movies, let's not forget that we have some awesome new shows to look forward to as well. Disney Plus is bringing us shows like The Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, and WandaVision, and since Disney has its own streaming platform, we have to imagine there will be even more shows in the future. Now, don't get us wrong, we love that these shows are going to take place in the MCU, but if you ever notice that most superheroes tend to live on the East Coast, sure, New York is a big city, but we'd love to see our heroes branch out a little bit. Focusing on shows could mean Marvel is getting ready to introduce the West Coast Avengers. That way we can get the adventures of a new superhero team without everyone's plot lines bumping into each other all the time. In the comics, the West Coast Avengers are set up by Vision, who decides there are enough threats to humanity to warrant another superhero team. Initially, the leader was Clint Barton, and his wife, Bobby Morse. The Mockingbird was part of the team too. Then there was Rhodey masquerading as Iron Man, Simon Williams as Wonder Man, and Greer Grant, also known as Tigra. The Avengers always like to trade quips, making jokes and go out for shawarma, but the West Coast Avengers are even goofier and even call themselves the Wackos. Eventually, they're joined by Mark Spector, the Moon Knight, who we know is getting his own show in Phase 4. We're also getting introduced to John Walker, aka the US agent in Black Widow, so there's another potential team member, not to mention whatever ends up happening with Wanda Maximoff and Vision. And while we would love to see the Dark Avengers, Young Avengers, and the West Coast Avengers, let's not forget that there is also a new Avengers team in the comic books, and they start up after a cataclysmic event which decimated their ranks. Hey, that kind of sounds like something that happened in the MCU pretty recently. But in the comic books, it was a result of a classic Scarlet Witch meltdown which caused no shortage of troubles for everyone. Like the original Avengers, this group was started in order to combat threats the heroes couldn't face as individuals. But while the original Avengers were more structured, this group operates more like a bunch of independent contractors that occasionally do a collaboration. The group goes through some pretty quick membership changes, but at the end of the first issue, we're left with Bucky Barnes as Captain America, Carol Danvers as Miss Marvel, Mockingbird, Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, Wolverine, and Luke Cage. Now that's an awesome team. There definitely seem like enough existing heroes and emerging faces to put together a new Avengers team in case of an MCU emergency. We have Peter Parker, Sam Wilson, Rhodey, Bucky Barnes, Scott Lang, Hope Van Dyne, T'Challa, Black Panther, and Doctor Strange just to start with. And characters like Shang-Chi and the Black Knight could end up joining the group as well. Even though many of these characters live in different places and have different priorities, we could definitely see them banding together during a crisis under the new Avengers banner. And other than the word Avengers, these groups all seem to have something else in common as well: Vision and the Scarlet Witch. The Young Avengers got their start thanks to an AI Vision, and Vision also introduced the West Coast Avengers. The new Avengers were forced to form after a Scarlet Witch-related catastrophe, and although the Dark Avengers were largely villainous in nature, they did have a member named Dr. June Covington, alias Toxie Doxie, who masqueraded as the Scarlet Witch. We definitely don't think there's a coincidence that Scarlet Witch has a big part to play in Phase 4, or that Vision will be coming back to the MCU somehow. We already know Scarlet Witch is going to be a key player in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and we also have to wonder how the idea of a multiverse will impact the future of the MCU. Not only is the shared universe going to be shared on both big and small screens, but there's now a potential for other timelines as well. There are so many things to look forward to in Phase 5, but if you don't mind us, we'll be busy scouring Phase 4 to find clues about how it might all play out in the future. Although they may have the biggest long shot of the bunch, we have to say we're seriously hoping to see the Dark Avengers join the MCU. Which one of these Avengers-themed superhero organizations do you want to see in Phase 5? Tell us your pick in the comment section and then click on the subscribe button for more videos from us here at CBR. Bye for now.